Hey everyone, I haven't posted for a while, but I wanted to share some thoughts on the recent USC game, USC season. There's a lot of mixed feelings going on, between USC fans due to the 3-3 start, which is not what anyone wants. And some people are starting to say, oh, Lincoln Riley might not be the coach. So I just wanted to get out here and say my opinion because it's the right opinion. So first things first, there's been some people I really like online that have been saying, oh, compare Clay Helton to Lincoln Riley. And in Clay Helton's first few years, he had a Pac-12 championship, so the conference championship. He had a Rose Bowl win and that stuff. And what does Lincoln Riley have? He doesn't have any of that. He has a Heisman Trophy. That's that's the only thing. Not as good of a record. And so on the base of things, with my opinion on Clay Helton, I like the guy, but he needed to be fired. He shouldn't have ever been hired, but should have been fired quickly. I mean, I was writing that during that first season of his when they went to the Rose Bowl. There was just deficiencies in the coaching that couldn't be explained away. Now, what is the difference here? Well, you take a look at that Clay Helton team that lost 50-something to almost nothing against Alabama, and then lost to Utah, lost to whatnot, and then turned it around, ended up winning the Rose Bowl against a real good Penn State team. You look at that team, though, and the difference is Lane Kiffin and Steve Sarkisian, who weren't my favorite head coaches, but man, they recruited some talent. Lane Kiffin negotiated the sanctions and got amazing talent pumped into USC. Steve Sarkisian continued that. So while Clay Helton got that team together, that USC team in 2017, they were the most talented team in the nation on talent alone. That's all we're saying. Like you look at the recruiting rankings and whatnot, the most talented team on just talent. Now they weren't the best team. They did improve a whole lot, but they were extremely talented. Now that talent that was built up in the program, carried Clay Helton all the way through many more seasons than he should have been there. They never improved the talent. People would get to USC as really good players, and they would leave roughly about at the same level, which was a big problem there. Now, Lincoln Riley, when he took over USC, Clay Helton had cratered the recruiting. There was still a few good players on the team, but the base, the foundations, was not there, especially on the lines. Now, again, good players on the line, on the offensive line. Those few starters that were there were some good players on that the first year. But there was no base of players to come back and take over after those few good players left. Now, so comparing the two is just stupid to compare. Clay Helton took over a vastly different USC team in a vastly different situation than Lincoln Riley took over. So that's first and foremost. Now, Lincoln Riley overperformed the first year. It looked good. I mean, they were really an injury away of Caleb Williams in that championship game against Utah. He stays healthy in that game, and it looked like they might, despite the defensive deficiencies, go on and win that and go to the college football playoff, which would have been great. So there are some things though. I mean, since then, Lincoln Riley has sort of come back down to earth. He started last season. I think they were 6-0 before losing way too many games at the end, and this year we've started off 3-3. But I want to look at the difference between last year's team and this year's team. We know there was deficiencies on defense. Those have largely, they're not to the level that we want, but they've largely been started to be corrected. There is there is a big difference between the team of last year and this year. And this year's team, despite having not the number one QB in the nation, potentially generational, once in a lifetime QB of Caleb Williams, this team is better than last year, even though you would look at the record and say, oh, well, the record doesn't show it. And that's what I think we're mixing, what is miffing so many USC fans, and me too, is we want to see those results. But you've got to look at the team itself. Are they getting better? Are they improving? That's exactly what happened when USC Pete Carroll took over USC way back. That 2001 team, not good. But by the end of the year, with Sonny Bird running the ball, they had improved a lot, and that carried over in the 2002 season with Carson Palmer, and then all of a sudden we had some national championships, and the rest of the decade there, we were the best team every single year. Now we fell short, other than those 2 years, 2 national championships, but we were the best team all the time. Now, with Lincoln Riley, I'm seeing improvements. The offensive line was pathetic. They're improving. Miller Moss had a lot more time against Penn State, which has one of the best defensive fronts in the Big Ten, and they have more time to make some passes and do some plays. They were actually running the ball very effectively. So there is improvements being made that there wasn't in the Clay Helton thing. And that's why I'm still optimistic about Lincoln Riley and about where things are going for USC. I think the talent is not there, and there's definitely been missteps. Recruiting being the biggest thing. We need to get more skill on the offensive and defensive line. I mean, there is zero pressure coming from our defensive line. Absolutely none. And I know, there's the Bear Alexander situation and some other, things haven't worked out, but we've got to get that straightened out, and that's on the coaching staff. They need to improve the talent of players coming in. Offensive line as well. There was some mishaps. We thought we had some players that haven't ended up being there, but we need that depth of talent coming up. And I do think because we are so young on that offensive line, if we can survive and they can continue to improve, we'll be set up pretty well for these next few seasons. And now there's also comments on Lincoln Riley's time management, play calling. I thought play calling was pretty darn good. Sometimes things, players don't execute. You think you're going to get something. If something gets blown up, there's another team on the other side of the ball that is playing as well. As far as the time management, I understand what Lincoln Riley was doing with the not calling the timeouts. He was playing to not give Penn State a chance, which turned out to be a good move because we threw a pick there at the end of the game. I disagree with it. I think you should play to go get a touchdown there and not just milk the clock and kick a field goal. I would say take a few timeouts, get the best plays in there, and win it with what you think you can do. So personally, I would have taken timeouts that Lincoln Riley didn't, but I'm not saying that he was wrong and I'm right. I just think it's different philosophies, and he's getting paid a whole lot of money, and I'm not getting paid anything to share my opinion. So, so that that's the difference there. So in conclusion, basically, so I can stop my rambling here, USC is actually doing better each week. Now, we've got to make sure we don't turn into Scott Frost at Nebraska, where they were so close, losing all those close games, and then just fell apart there and needing a change, and then he got fired. If you're losing some close games, which we could easily be undefeated now, but lose those close games, make sure that doesn't cascade into continuing losses, but continue to improve, and you've got to change that to wins. Now, one other thing, because I just remembered that I was wanting to talk about it. The officiating has been horrible in the Big Ten. I thought we were going to be in greener pastures with the Big Ten after how horrible the Pac-12 officiating has been. It has been absurdly bad. And I'm not going to say that the officials are out to get USC, but USC has been extremely unlucky on the wrong side of so many officiating calls. You can't call it an illegal block below the waist when our tight end is blocking the guy into his shoulder. That wiped out a potential touchdown that would have probably won us the game there at the end of the first half. When our guy gets tackled into the ground and runs into a guy, that's not an illegal block on our defensive guy. Our guy got pushed down to the ground. That's not any block. If a guy runs behind and is injured on the play and happens to brush the quarterback's leg gently with the right hand, he's not hitting him. That's not roughing the passer. If your guy is getting draped over him a full second before the ball gets there, that's pass interference. And those things have to be called. If a guy is getting tackled, wrapped up and tackled so he can't make a tackle, that's holding. You have to call that. And we have been on the wrong side of too many calls. There has been a few that have benefited USC, but in the grand scheme of things, so much more has been against USC. So to conclude that, USC needs to get good enough that it's not close enough that bad officiating matters. That's the point we need to get to, where they can continue to call bad calls against us, and we have the talent and the skill that we have such a lead, it doesn't matter. And I think that's where we're still going. Anyways, that's my thoughts. I think USC, I really feel good about USC moving forward the rest of this season and definitely moving into this next season if we can continue to build up here. I think we'll beat the Terrapins. I really think moving through the rest of the season, we could probably win the rest of our games. And so that's what I'm hoping for. Anyways, fight on. Have it so good.